Hi, I'm Tim,
And I'm Jennifer.
and welcome to the Psychology of Everyday Success brought to you by the Owens Group. Today, we want to discuss how to know if someone is emotionally healthy enough to be in a dating or marital relationship with you.
But before we get started, we want to remind you that immediately following this broadcast at 3:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will be hosting a Facebook Live session where you can join the conversation, ask questions, make comments, and receive immediate feedback live. You can find us online by going to Facebook and searching Psychology of Everyday Success Group. Hope to see you there. So, how can you tell if someone is emotionally healthy enough to be in a relationship with you? And what is emotional health or emotional wellness?
That's a great question. So, the National Center for Emotional Wellness defines emotional wellness as an awareness, understanding, and acceptance of our feelings, as well as our ability to manage effectively through challenges and change. So think about this. The United States spends more money to treat mental disorders than any other disease or medical condition. Anxiety disorders are the most common mental health illnesses in the United States, and depression is now the leading cause of illness and disability worldwide.
So, to better understand someone's emotional fitness for a relationship, we have to ask a number of pertinent questions. Sometimes the questions are more important than the answers because if you ask the right questions, we can often arrive at the right answers. But if we don't ask the right questions, there's no way to arrive at the right answers. So, here's the first question to consider to understand a person's readiness for a relationship. We need to know, like, how well do they connect? How well do they communicate concerning their emotions? Can they name their emotions? Knowing that they can name their emotions often shows us that, yes, they're centered, they're aware, they're present.
They know how
Can
they
they
feel, right?
can they actually identify and name what they are feeling? Or do they deny that they're feeling anger, anything other than anger or mad,
Or
being
just
mad?
being mad. Yeah. So sometimes, you know, uh, often people want to just think about. By the way, anger is what we call a secondary emotion, right? It's not a primary emotion. So typically, what happens is, especially with men, I might be feeling let down, but it comes out as I'm angry. I might be feeling disrespected, but it comes out as I'm angry. I might be feeling left out, but it comes out as I'm angry. So can they name emotions beyond anger? Can they name those and claim those?
Mhm. And we left a feelings well up a couple of weeks ago in our group to kind of just give an example of that so that people can
Absolutely.
understand how they feel about things.
Mm.
Will they agree to use I feel statements when talking about their feelings? For example, I feel let down versus I feel you ignore me when I need to connect with you. Using the
Yeah.
I feel statement is an example of showing how to make someone be less defensive. When you use you, then that
Hmm.
often means that people are going to get offensive and they're going to feel blamed.
Yeah. You is verbal finger pointing, right? It's when I say you are you this and you that, that's like sticking your finger in somebody's face and shaming them, or blaming them. So I feel, is a way more important way to communicate, because it really does experience, it gives you opportunity to say exactly what you're feeling, right, and move into those spaces effectively so that you can have really good communication. So do they use I feel statements, or do they just point fingers of blame, uh, in that way?
Do they claim their own emotions? How readily do they actually communicate what they are feeling other than anger? Is it
Mm,
difficult for them to talk about what they deeply feel?
mm,
Sometimes people don't really know what they feel. So
mm.
it might be a challenge for them to tap into their intuitive self, like we talked about. And we did
Sure.
a whole video on intuition and being
Yeah.
able to be aware. When the
Well,
subject
and
of
here's
feelings come up, do they take it seriously or do
yeah.
they tend to find a way to escape the discussion?
Mm. And yeah, and that's absolutely critical. Because if I can't talk about my feelings, if I can't communicate how I feel, then we can't have relationship. We can't have an authentic connection. Go ahead, Jen. What were you going to say?
Will they own their emotions?
Mm,
Do they accept responsibility for the way they feel, or do they blame others for making them feel what they feel? A lot of
woo,
times we tend to blame people and say, "You made me." Well, no
mm,
one can really make you do anything.
right.
It's really about you being able to kind of own your own emotions and being able to state them effectively.
Exactly. If they play that "you made me mad" or "you made me do X, Y, Z," what's true is, as a grown adult, I am responsible for what I feel and how I react to it. So I need to be in the space to be able to share that effectively and deal with those feelings directly. Okay, so that's about communicating how they feel, right? That's the first thing we want to consider. The next thing we really want to consider is, how do they manage stress? How do they manage stress? So first thing to consider is, do they tend to have a lot of stress all of the time? Right? People who tend to have a lot of stress all of the time often can't figure out how to be in really good, healthy relationships with other people, because they don't know much about boundaries. They have a difficulty actually saying no to other people, right? So the question is, can they say no to others who place stressful demands on their lives? What we say all the time is that no is a complete sentence. No is a complete sentence. As a matter of fact, sometimes I say, let me say that in Spanish. No. You know, right? And so sometimes you have to say no to friends. Sometimes you have to say no to family. Sometimes you have to say no to work, and sometimes you have to say no to children. So that you can say yes to things that are important where your relationship is concerned. All right. So do they tend to maintain a positive attitude and perspective? That's absolutely critical. Positive attitude and perspective. Do they see the glass as half full or half empty? If they have a pessimistic perspective, most of the time, where they see the problem before they see the opportunity, right? And they can't see the silver lining, and even in difficult situations, that might be a red flag you might want to pay attention to. That might mean they're not really ready to be in a relationship long term. The other question is, what do they do to relax? Jen has been really convincing me that relaxation is really important. You know, and so what do they do to relax? Do they rely on alcohol to reduce stress? Or do they spend time working out, exercising, meditating? Do they get enough sleep? Or are they always tired all the time? So if they don't know how to relax, that's going to create stress. And stress in a marriage and or in a relationship is ultimately going to cause problems for the relationship if we don't know how to resolve that effectively.
Yeah, and we're coming down to kind of like a little bit of time. So,
Crunch time, yeah.
what do they do for fun? Now, being able to have fun and be intentional about it is very important. Having your own hobbies, activities, being able to have people that you pursue the same hobbies with, being able to maintain work-life balance is really important.
Absolutely.
So, it's very, very important that they are the type of people that they go after fun and know what makes them have fun. Like they really know how to do fun. That's always because that's a good stress reliever anyway, I think.
Sure.
And also, how do they make decisions? Do they make emotional based decisions and behave rashly? Don't give much thought to their decisions. Do they work them out with other people or mentors? Do they consider the facts sometimes without um, with bringing in their own intuition, being able to use their own emotional intelligence and to think about how things might affect someone else versus themselves.
Mm.
Do they follow through with the decisions they make, or do they change their minds easily? So that's very important as well.
Absolutely. And then the last thing we want to consider this time is, by the way, there's going to be a part 2 to this, but how do they deal with failures and setbacks, right? Do setbacks crush them, or do they motivate them? Do they learn from their mistakes, from the mistakes they made, or do they keep repeating the same mistakes over and over again? Do they shame and blame others for problems that they where their own failures are concerned, or do they work to do better the next time? Are they critical of others in order to make themselves feel good about themselves? And do they build self-esteem of others, or do they tend to tear others down who don't perform to their expectations? Those are things you want to consider. Those are flags to consider.
Yeah. I think it's pretty manipulative when people try to put their own emotions on you, so, or their own expectations. So be careful with that.
Yeah.
These are just some of the important questions to ask a prospective partner, or when you're thinking about somebody who's going to be in your life for a length of time. So this concludes part 1 of the topic, how to know if someone is emotionally healthy enough to be in a relationship with you. But we invite you to join us the next time for part 2 at Psychology of Everyday Success on the radio, Saturdays at 3 Eastern. Remember that, 2 Central. Just go to urbanenterprisestulsa.com and click on the stream Urban Radio online red button.
Absolutely. So for more in-depth discussion, find us on Facebook Live immediately following the radio show by going to Facebook and searching Psychology of Everyday Success Group. We are Psychology of Everyday Success, helping you to become your best self so that you can live your best life. Join us.
Bye-bye.